हरि ओम। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम महागणाधिपतये नमः। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Namaste. Welcome to this ninth session of Viveka Chudamani. We will continue with Pancha Kosha and study Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha with a few more selected verses of Viveka Chudamani today. Before that, Dr. Komal Prasad will give us a quick recap of last class. Over to you, Komal sir.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Self-ignorance, self-misconception, emotional turmoil, rebirth and death. All these four layers put together is called bondage or bandha. We saw that all these four are caused by two powers of avidya, namely the avarana shakti and vikshepa shakti. Katham pratishtha asya. How does this samsara, these four layers, persist in the life of a jiva and for such a long time? This question arises because samsara is supposed to be anadi. Like in a physically impossible perpetual motion machine, it has survived several creations. In verse 43, the continuity of samsara was talked about by comparing samsara, a jiva's life, to a vriksha, a tree. Bijam tu tamaha. Seed is self-ignorance. Dehat mati rankuraha. The identification with the body. I am an individual living being. That notion is a sprout. Desires, kama, are the tender leaves. Karma is ambu, water. Body is the main trunk. Branches are prana shakti. Tips of the branches are sense organs. Vishaya pushpani. Sense objects are flowers. Fruits are pleasures and pains. Jiva is the bird experiencing the fruits of the tree. Here Swamiji reminded us that without Jiva's contribution, Bhagavan cannot create the world. Beginningless or Anadi Jiva and Anadi Ishvara together contribute to the perpetuation of universe. This is called Pratishta, persistence of samsara and perpetuity. Next question is Katham Vimoksha. How can Jiva get out of samsara? How to get liberated? The spiritual journey consists of two stages. First is Karma Yoga, which is preparation, and the second is Gnana Yoga, which gives actual liberation. We noted that without Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga is impossible, and without Gnana Yoga, Karma Yoga as well as Upasana Yoga is incomplete. Of the four layers of samsara, Ajnanam and Adhyasa, self-ignorance and self-misconception, are the intellectual layers which are removed by Gnana Yoga or self-knowledge. Third layer is Tapatrayam. Karma Yoga will dilute Tapatrayam. It dilutes all the emotional disturbances. Bhakti gives emotional strength. Shruti Pramane Ekamatehe refers to the spiritual seeker who has fixed moksha as the primary goal of life. These two stages will completely uproot the problem of samsara. However, it's not as easy as it seems. Just see this pain we get even as we cut this beautiful tree with oranges in this slide. We shudder to think of any loss. We are scared to see the black, the blankness, emotional turmoil, tapatrayam. We need to come out of it through karma yoga. Therefore, Acharya says here that to avoid this pain and turmoil, Munjat Ishikamiva, just as a person separates the Ishika, the pith from Munja grass, with the help of a guru, with the help of Shastra, we must separate Atma from Anatma. Every Jivatma is a mixture of consciousness and Shariratrayam, the Anatma, and both these are inseparably mixed together. Since they cannot be physically separated, intellectually I should separate the consciousness from Shariratrayam, the Anatma. This is called Atma Anatma Viveka or Pancha Kosha Viveka. That's the answer given to the question, Tayor Viveka Katam. Shankaracharya introduced Pancha Kosha, which are nothing but reclassified version of three Sharirams. And Acharya defines each one of them and says, we have mistaken them as Atma ourselves. Then he says, this idea, the notion has to be discarded. First, the Annamaya Kosha was explained in verses 46 and 47. This gross physical body of ours is the product of food, and it's a mass of skin, flesh, blood, bones, and filth, which can never be the eternally pure, self-existent Atman. This Annamaya Kosha is mistaken as Atma, but we must disidentify from it, learning to look at it as Anatma part of the world. Then from Annamaya Kosha, we may enter the Pranamaya Kosha, which we wrongly see as Atma. This is our regular mistake. So we disregard and discard that also. Similarly, further, we'll see that our error in considering Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha also as Atma. Thus, we travel from outer Kosha into inner Kosha. Swamiji points out that this methodology, which is based on Taittiriya Upanishad of outer and inner Kosha, is only figurative. Gradually, we will move to know Atma. I am not the gulab jamun, I am not the syrup, not the sugar, but water, pure, attributeless water. I am not the gross body, I am not the subtle body or the causal body, but pure consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Komal. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. We've all heard of Maharishi Bhrigu. It was mentioned in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna was talking about the various vibhutis, and he says, among all the Maharishis, I am Bhrigu. Bhrigu is famous for us also in the Taittiriya Upanishad, in the Bhrigu Valli. In the Bhrigu Valli is an example where here Bhrigu was the student, he goes to his father Varuna. Like any student goes to a teacher, with all the respect, he goes to his father and says, "Oh Bhagavan, can you give me Brahma Vidya?" And the teacher, his father, initiates a discussion. The father does not want to give Brahma Vidya straight away. He wants him to analyze, he wants him to evaluate. And among all the discussion, this is one of the words by Varuna, the father, which goes like this: Yato va imami bhutani jayanti, yena jatani jivanti. Essentially, the father is saying, can you evaluate to see what is that which is the cause of this whole world, what from which all of us came into being, what is that which sustains all of us? And the son goes and makes a thorough evaluation, and he comes with a discovery. And this discovery is the basis of what we have, this Pancha Kosha Viveka, which is there in the Taittiriya Upanishad. The son comes with the discovery, says that we are existing because of Annam. And the father says, good, you proceed. So from the gross to the subtle, from Annam to Pranam to Mano to Vijnanam to Anandamaya Kosha, the whole discovery is going on. Now, in this part of the Viveka Chudamani, Adi Shankara is elaborating the study of the Panchakosha Viveka, which was given in the Taittiriya Upanishad in a very, very systematic manner, taking us from the gross, which we can understand, to the more and more subtle. When we want to do a parikrama to Mount Kailash, we know that the atmosphere is very rarefied. And in this rarefied place, it is not possible for us to be able to walk around the place unless you are acclimatized. And therefore, it is essential that you go every 2,000 feet before you go, you stay for 1 or 2 days where your body becomes acclimatized in that then you can proceed 2,000 feet higher. And that is the process that we are going on. Lakshmi will present the last verse about Pranamaya Kosha. Over to you, Lakshmi, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse is Naivatmapi Pranamayo Vayuvikaro Ganta Ganta Vayuvadantar Bahireshaha Yasmat Kinchit Vapi Na Vetishtam Anishtam Swam Vanyam Vakinchana Nityam Paratantraha. In this verse, the student asks the seventh and final question, which is answered by the Guru in this verse. The question is, how can we differentiate Atma and Anatma? In these verses, Shankaracharya shows how each one of these koshas is not Atma, the self. The argument he used is twofold. One is by showing that each kosha is like the external world of objects, Anatma. So, Bahya Anatma Salakshanaha. Salakshana means having features common to the external world of objects. The second one is Atma has been described in the Upanishads. The features are called Atma Vilakshana. So, when we look at the features of each kosha, it is like the external Anatma. This verse is the negation of vital air sheath. Panchakosha is a subdivision of Sukshma Shariram. It consists of Panchapranas and Panchakarmendriyas. All of them are born out of Rajoguna of these 5 subtle elements. Rajoguna is associated with Panchakosha because it corresponds to our doing faculty, Kriya Shakti. The verse, let us look at the verse. Naivatmayam pranamayo vayu vikaraha. In the first line, the pranamaya kosha is naiva atma, which means it should never be mistaken as atma. Why? Because it is vayu vikara. It is a product of vayu, air. Air represents pancha sukshma bhutani, product of 5 elements. Just as the external world is bhautikam, Panchakosha is also bhautikam, but Atma is abhautikam. Therefore, it is not Atma. Ganta Ganta Vayuvadantar Bahireshaha. Ganta means going in. Aganta means coming out. The Vayu that we breathe in and out is Thula Bhutam. Along with Vayu, Prana Shakti or pranic energy also we are breathing. So when the air is inside the body, it is called prana. But once it is outside, it is called atmospheric air. Thus, prana is subjected to movement. Therefore, it has got kriya or karma. It has going and coming karma. But Atma is free from movement. So, pranamaya is kriya sahitaha, but Atma is kriya rahitaha. Therefore, pranamaya kosha is anatma. Yasmat kinchit vapi vetishtam anishtam. Prana does not know anything, neither its own joys and sorrows, nor those of others. It cannot know anything, being inert by itself. Even though pranamaya has got borrowed consciousness, the physiological system and functions, the pranamaya by itself is not capable of knowing anything. For example, during deep sleep, all the organs have subsided, but pranamaya alone functions, which means life is on, breathing is on. Even though pranamaya is very active in a sleeping person, the person is not aware of its surroundings, which means active pranamaya cannot sense the surroundings. Therefore, pranamaya is jadaha, whereas atma is chetana. Therefore, pranamaya kosha is anatma. In the last line, swam va anyam va kinchana nityam paratantraha. Even though pranamaya is active in deep sleep, it does not have that self-awareness nor surrounding awareness. Then Nityam. Nityam can be taken as adverbial for na veti, does not know, or it can be connected as a Nityam Paratantraha. That means, for example, during pranayama, we can breathe or hold the breath. It is Paratantraha, which means it is controlled by the will of the jiva. It is not Swatantraha, not independent, whereas Atma is independent. Because of all these reasons, Pranamaya Kosha is Anatma, not Atma. The Atman, the self, is eternal, all pervasive, and omniscience. It has no modifications, no movements, and it is the knower of all. Thank you. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Lakshmi, for giving us a nice explanation of what is this Pranamaya Kosha and how this Pranamaya Kosha is not the real me, as you have given various reasons why it cannot be the Atma, why it is not aware of the surroundings, why it is inert. It is something that comes and goes, while the Atma never comes and goes. So the student and the teacher are going now from Annamaya Kosha to something subtler, the Pranamaya Kosha. Now we come to something even more subtler, when the student is now having to understand that is my real nature Manomaya Atma. Dr. Anupama, can you explain this, please?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Jnanendriya cha manahascha manomaya syat kosho mama aham iti vastu vikalpa hetuhu samjyati bheda kalana kalito baliyan tat purva kosham abhipurya vijrumbhate yaha. This is Manomaya Kosha Vivekaha. The Manomaya Kosha consists of Manaha and Pancha Jnanendriyani, that is, the mind and the five sense organs. Kosha Mama Aham iti Vastu Vikalpa Hetuhu, based on sentimental association, objects of the world, that is Vastu, are divided Vikalpa as mine, Mama, or I, Aham. The primary ahankara is association with the panchakoshas. The types of adhyasas based on extent of attachment to the prapancha are sadhyatma adhyasa, that is, ahankara sambandha, a total identification as intense as ahankara, and samsarga adhyasa, that is, mamakara sambandha, a simple relationship. Here, the pain of loss is less intense. Manomaya is a cause of both these attachments. What is the genesis of this division? The answer is Sanjyati Bheda Kalana Kalitaha Baliyan. Sanjaya means nama or name. Adi is etc. Here it refers to rupa or forms. Bheda is particular or varieties. Example, many nama rupas. Kalana means relationship or association. Kalitaha is preoccupied or endowed with. Baliyan means powerful. We see that the world is full of objects with nama rupa and with desha kala and other attributes, samjati, bheda, kalana. The mind perceives and registers all these worldly experiences. The world is therefore then stored as thoughts in this mind, kalitaha. I dwell upon this inner world, registered from the outer world, and react with raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, etc. When these emotions overpower my intellect, the Manomaya Kosha becomes Baliyan, my controller, instead of being my instrument. The mind with Samjati Bheda Kalana is therefore Baliyan. Tat Purva Kosham Abhipurya Yaha Vijrimbhate. Yaha here is the Manomaya Kosha. Tat Purva Kosham is its previous Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha. Abhipurya means fills up with these faculties. Vijrimbhate means shines forth. That is, filling up the Pranamaya Kosha, its previous Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha shines forth. The Manomaya interacts with the world through the Pancha Jnanendriyani. These five organs, the fivefold sensory, bring about fivefold sensory experiences and offer them to the mind. For example, the eye offers forms, the ears offer sounds, etc. The Pancha Jnana Indriyani offer Pancha Vishayani to the mind. As the mind perceives these inputs, it categorizes them with reactions like raga, dvesha, kama, krodha, etc. Vasanas are simultaneously created, triggering the mind for more of these. Shankaracharya gives this metaphor explicitly depicted here by this sketch by Madam Chetana. Our whole life is like a fire ritual, a yaga. The mind is the sacred fire, Agni. Our vasanas are the fuel, Indhanam. Our five sense organs are the five priests or the hotas: ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and skin. These five sense organs constantly offer swaha, oblations to the mind fire. What is this oblation material? The sense objects. Agnyam, the Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha. Vishaya Agnyam Dhara is the melted ghee. Just as ghee nourishes the fire, these nourish the mind continuously. Sadly, this Homa is lifelong, except in Shushupti. This brilliant Manomaya Agni burns all of us mentally with sorrow, worry, depression, anxiety, etc. This is Samsara Tapaha. As the Amrita Bindu Upanishad says, Manaha eva manushyanam karana bandha mokshaya. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anupama, for giving us an idea about the next kosha or the next layer, where the student initially identifies with myself as Atma. Initially, the student identifies with the mind as Atma. Why? Because when I am fast asleep, I have no problems whatsoever. All my problems come in life the moment I am awake. When I am awake, my mind becomes awake, and the mind now becomes active because of the various sense organs. These sense organs are constantly giving us information, and that is why we are kept awake. There is an area of a group of nerves in the brainstem region, that is the midbrain, pons, and medulla, which is shaded red here, which is responsible, which is called the reticular formation. The reticular formation is responsible for our wakeful consciousness, and when the reticular formation is inactivated, that is when we go to sleep. That is why when we go to sleep, we want the room to be dark. That means Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, all these inputs which come into the mind and which burn the mind are not there. This particular example which Dr. Anupama used is not in the verse that was allotted to her. Now, when we study these 108 verses of Viveka Chudamani, 108 verses itself seem to be long. But you must remember, Swami Dayananda asked Swami Paramatmananda ji to select 1/5 of them because he was taking a session for a group. He says, select the best of them so that I can take this for a group. Now, many groups all over the world have taken Swami Paramatmananda's 108 verses as a standard to have a quick glimpse at the Viveka Chudamani. However, remember, in this particular verse, we have one verse which Dr. Anupama has explained and one more verse which Dr. Raksha is going to explain. But in between, in the original Viveka Chudamani, there are 18 verses. And this fire homa, where all the sense organs keep that fire ignited, is in the next verse that has been allotted. So what I would recommend from the experience of Dr. Anupama is not only go through your verses, but look at the verses around in the original Viveka Chudamani, and then you will have a more complete idea of this topic. The next speaker will be Dr. Raksha, and she will tell us why this Manomaya Kosha is not the real me. Over to you, Dr. Raksha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Anatma nature of the Manomaya Kosha is concluded in this verse. Manomayo napi bhavet paratma hyadyantavatvat parinami bhavat dukkatmakatvat vishayatma hetoho drashtahi drushyatmataya na drushtaha. It is said a Jnani treats Manomaya as a costume, whereas an Ajnani treats like themselves. For an Ajnani, it is Atma, and for a Jnani, it is a Kosha. Manomayo napi bhavet paratma. Our identification with mind is so natural, and with prarabdha aiding it, when mind is disturbed, we do not distance ourselves from the mind, saying mind has an issue, let us handle it, but get lost in it. We not only have to handle our ignorance, but our vasanas also. Like Annamaya and Pranamaya are Anatma, Manomaya is also Anatma. It is not the consciousness principle. The reasons for this are given in this slide. Adi Antyavatvat. Manomaya or mind is subject to birth and death. Though the lifespan of Manomaya is longer than Annamaya, mind will continue to survive for millions of years, which means throughout the current Srishti. In the next Janma also, we will not have a new mind. It is the same mind with balanced karma, with all the acquired vasanas, which continues. And it goes through several bodies. So in our body, the mind we have is carried from our Purva Janma with Purva Janma vasanas. Mind has got the entire Srishti as its lifespan. But in every Srishti, mind is produced out of Avidya Maya Karanam. And mind resolves into Karana Shariram at the time of Pralayam. Whereas the Atma, the consciousness principle, does not have a beginning, but manifestation of consciousness has a beginning and an end. Consciousness is eternal and mind is non-eternal. The second point being Parinami Bhavat. Mind is subject to modifications, whereas Atma is Nirvikaraha. So the changeless consciousness and ever-changing mind can never be one. The next point being Dukkatma Bhavat. What is the mental condition of an Ajnani? His mind is predominantly dissatisfied, ever discontented. As it is said, the very nature being Dukkatma Kamaha Dukkha Swarupam Manaha. Mind does become happy on and off. According to Vedanta, whenever mind is happy, it is not because of happiness in the mind. It is because of Atma Sukham reflecting on the mind. Like the moon's light is not the light from the moon, it is the light of the sun on the moon. Manomaya is Anrita, Jada, and Dukkam, whereas Atma is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupaha. Vishayatva Hetuhu. Manomaya is an intimate object of experiences. We are aware of our mental condition. We experience all the emotions, and during sleep, the mind resolves. So the knowing entity is different from the knower subject. So the next slide. Drashtahi drushyatmataya na drushtaha. Mind is experienced by me, but Atma can never be experienced at a particular time as an object. That is why we negate Atmanubhava as an event. In Shastra, we should translate it as Atma Aparoksha Jnanam, meaning I am the Atma without experiencing as an object. Bhagavad Pada Shankara says Atma is the experiencer, seer, and mind is the experienced. Thus, at the end of this verse, mind as Anatma is established. Hari Om, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aksha. So, this is the culmination or the end of so many verses. I think at least 16 verses in the original Viveka Chudamani, where Swami Paramatmananda has selected only 2 of us for study, and Dr. Aksha has explained very clearly. I have this great instrument called the mind. Because of my mind, I'm able to function, I'm able to do everything. Sadly, because of the mind, I suffer also. But remember, mana eva manushyanam karana bandha mokshaye. Because of my mind, I have bondage. The same mind, if it can be trained to be more cultured through karma yoga, through upasana yoga, it can become more and more sattvic. The same mind can prepare me for moksha. Dr. Aksha very clearly explained why the mind cannot be me and what is the implication for all of us. When I see my mind anxious, when I see my mind depressed, our attitude should be, my mind is going through a lot of anxiety or a lot of depression. And the moment I see myself as someone other than my mind, I have some ability to control that mind of mine. We now go to the next topic, that is about Vijnanamaya Kosha. The opening verse will be by Viksha. Over to you, Viksha.
Thank you, Doctor. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. बुद्धिर्बुद्धीन्द्रिय सार्धं सवित्रीकर्तु लक्षणः विज्ञानमय कोशस्यात् पुंस संसार कारणम्. Next slide, Doctor. In this verse, Adi Shankaracharya continues to discuss about the Panchakosha Viveka topic, otherwise known as Atma Anatma Viveka topic. Of the 5 koshas, we've already seen the first 3 in the form of Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Manomaya. We are gradually traveling inwards or interior from the grosser to the subtler. Each kosha, as we enter, is mistaken as Atma, and later we learn it is not Atma, but a kosha or Anatma only. Next slide. Let's take an example of something we are all familiar with, the Russian dolls, also known as Matryoshka dolls. When we look at the first doll, we appreciate its beauty until we open it to discover that there are more dolls within. As we open each covering, it becomes insignificant because there is another doll within to look forward to. And the last doll we find after opening all the coverings seems to be the most important out of all of the other dolls. Similarly, initially, Annamaya is called Annamaya Atma, but the moment we enter Pranamaya, the Pranamaya is named as Anatma, and the Pranamaya is named Atma, and Annamaya is named Anatma or Kosha. Pranamaya enjoys Atma status until we enter Manomaya. And once we come to Manomaya and give it Atma status, Pranamaya is reduced to Kosha or Anatma. We have entered into Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the 4th layer. Next slide. The Vijnanamaya Kosha, also called the intellectual sheath, constitutes the intellect, the sense organs of perception, and all the different modifications of the intellect. It controls the organs of perception. The intellectual sheath in a man wields the infinite reality. It is the cause of samsara. The modifications of the intellect are the awareness of doing and the concept of I am the doer. The concept creates more and more vasanas. In order to exhaust the vasanas, the individual has to move from one field of enjoyment to another. So there are births and deaths. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Now, a question arises. How is Vijnanamaya Kosha the cause of samsara? This question is answered in the upcoming verses. Next slide, Doctor. I would like to conclude with a quote by Ramana Maharshi, which talks about the final layer or the fifth kosha, the Anandamaya Kosha. It goes as, happiness is your nature. It is not wrong to desire it. What is wrong is seeking it outside when it is already present inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Viksha, for the opening verse explaining what is this Vijnanamaya Kosha. It is a subtle difference from Manomaya Kosha. When we talk of the three bodies, the subtle body includes all Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha have only very subtle differences. And the subtlety is what you said, the concept of I comes in the Vijnanamaya Kosha. You spoke about Ramana, and I will go to one verse from the Upadesha Sara, the 18th verse, which gives a very brilliant explanation of the mind. If this verse particularly is understood, it will help us to understand Vijnanamaya Kosha much better. What Bhagavan says is this: in this world, I see so many objects. I see so many people, I see so many objects. Now, how do these people or these objects enter my mind? They can enter my mind only by a thought. When I see a man, a woman, a child, a bottle, all this man, woman, child, bottle have to enter my mind as a thought. So in my mind, I see a man thought, woman thought, bottle thought, and so on. So my mind is full of thoughts. And Bhagavan Ramana calls this mind full of thoughts as idam vritti, idam vritti, idam vritti. So my mind is full of all these thoughts that I can experience. But then he points our attention to another thought. I am seeing the man, I am seeing the woman, I am seeing the bottle. So there is an I thought which Bhagavan brings us to our attention, which is called the Aham Vritti. The Aham Vritti is one, whereas the Idam Vritti is many. This one Aham Vritti, which is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, is supporting all the other thoughts. Finally, Bhagavan says, and this is what all our scriptures also tell us, this Aham Vritti, this I thought, is supported by Aham. So when we are going through this Panchakosha Viveka, we go on negating. We have not yet come to the negating state of that I am not this Vijnanamaya Kosha. We have subsequent speakers. Dr. Bhaskar, if you can elaborate on this.
Om Gurubhyo Namah. So, from the previous verses, Mana Karanam, Karta Karanam, Pumsaha Samsara Karanam is understood. Vijnanamaya Kosha is naturally inert, and it is Achetana Panchabhutani Bhautikatvat Jadaha. Because of its subtle nature, it reflects the Atma Chaitanya. So, if you take the 5 fingers, the index finger is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the middle finger is Manomaya Kosha, the ring finger is Pranamaya Kosha, and the little finger is Annamaya Kosha. With all these 4 together is the cause of samsara. And when Vijnanamaya Kosha is with Anandamaya Kosha, as in Chinmudra, it is the cause for Nirvikalpa Jnanam. Whereas the real nature of Atma is Nirguna, Nishkalam, Asanga, Sarvagatam, Ekam. So, with this understanding, coming to the verse, in this verse, the concept of Pratibimba Shakti is explained. The word Anuvraja Chitta Pratibimba Shakti Vijnana Samagna Prakriti Vikaraha Jnana Kriyavan Hamitya Jasram Deha Indriyadi Swa Abhimanyate prasham. Means this knowledge sheet, Vijnanamaya Kosha, which seems to be followed by the reflection of power of Chit. It is a modification of Prakriti. It is endowed with the function of knowledge and always only identified with the body and etc. So a beautiful example is given here to understand the Pratibimba Shakti or the borrowed consciousness or the reflected consciousness. There are four components here. Imagine there is a mud pot with water. The mud pot is Stula Shariram or the physical body. The water in the mud pot is Sukshma Shariram or the Buddhi. Within the Stula Shariram, there is Sukshma Shariram. Above, there is a sun, the original consciousness or Bimba Chaitanya. So the sun is reflected on the water in the mud pot. Similarly, the Sukshma Shariram, Viveka Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, because of its close proximity and being more subtler, there is Pratibimba Chaitanya, otherwise the reflection of the consciousness. So the reflection power of the Chit seems to be constantly present with the Buddhi. Even in Jagrat and Swapnavastha, the reflected consciousness is dominant, whereas the original consciousness or Atma is dormant, means it is overshadowed by the reflected consciousness. So in this example, the distance between the sun and the reflected sunlight seems to be miles apart. It's not so in reality, because the Katha Upanishad says both the original consciousness and reflected consciousness are in close proximity. So next is Prakriti Vikaraha. The Vijnanamaya Kosha is Prakriti Vikaraha, means Buddhi is a modification or product of Prakriti. Prakriti means Maya. Maya means the basic matter which has evolved to become the material universe. Therefore, because it is inert, it borrows sentiency as it does not belong to Swabhavika Chaitanya like Atma. So like the reflected water, which becomes the secondary source of sunlight, on similar lines, the reflected consciousness seems to become the secondary source of consciousness. Then it starts thinking, planning, and acting. Buddhi, with its own individuality, starts the jnana pursuit. Jnana kriyan starts the mischief. So the jiva takes up deliberate action at three levels. That is janati, ichchati, and etet. That means the jnana, ichcha, prayatna is life, which later in Viveka Chudamani is explained as seemingly existent consciousness category. Jiva endowed with jnana pursuit develops the ahamiti or ahamkara, ego or I notion. This ahamiti abhimanyate is constantly there. That's why Bhagavad Shankaracharya uses the word ajasaram. Therefore, wherever buddhi is there, there is reflected consciousness. Wherever reflected consciousness is there, buddhi is there. So anuvraja means always behind. So now jiva has three factors: buddhi, pratibimba shakti, and bimba chaitanya. Even though all three are there, here comes the fundamental error. Instead of climbing the real I, the sun, I climb the reflected sunlight. Similarly, instead of climbing the real nature, Atma as I climb the Chidabhasa, the reflected consciousness. Because of this, Deha Indriyani Abhimanyate. This unfortunate, ignorant, indiscriminate, unenlightened Jiva identifies with the physical body, which is only the reflecting medium. That too, not a casual identification. The example given is of a mountain lizard or Udumbu. So intense is our identification, even if Shastras and Guru tie a rope and pull it with all their strength, it doesn't come out. So this error is beginningless, as they are born out of beginningless ignorance. Reflected consciousness is a confusion between Atma and Anatma, as the real transference doesn't take place because Atma is Asangaha. Here, because of the Upadhi, ahamkara, the superior I, appears to be the property of inferior I. So, with the feeling of I-ness and minus, the creation of samsara is started. So, this fundamental error has an end with the wake up of knowledge. So, Vedanta leads to Nirvikalpaka Jnanam. Hari Om Sat.
Thank you, Dr. Bhaskar, for giving us more information about this Vijnanamaya Kosha, which we identify as me. And because of the identification as me, which is limited, and I want to be unlimited, or my real nature is unlimited, I always have a conflict between what I really am and what I think I am. And that is why we are going through a spiritual jnanam to help us to know who is the real I. We have one more verse on Vijnanamaya Kosha for class today. And Vasanta, if you can explain that for us. Vasanta, please.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. We have learnt a lot about the Vijnanamaya Kosha from the past two speakers. Let us recap the parts that are relevant to this sloka. The intellect, the Jnanendriyas, and the various vrittis form the Kartri Lakshanaha, or the sense of doership. This combination is referred to as the Vijnanamaya Kosha. It is the Karta or doer in charge of all decisions and actions. The Vijnanamaya Kosha is comprised mainly of Sattva Guna, and it reflects the consciousness of or Atma. However, it is blinded by avidya caused by Maya and is therefore the cause of man's cycle of samsara. Now, this sloka, sloka number 54, elaborates how the Vijnanamaya Kosha causes man's cycle of samsara. Here is the sloka. Anadi kalo ayam aham swabhavaha jivas samasta vyavahara vodha karoti karmanyapi purva vasanaha punyanya punyani cha tatphalani. And here is its meaning. The Vijnanamaya Kosha has identified itself with the I thought and the I vasana since time immemorial. So ahankara or I-ness has become second nature to it and is inseparable from this kosha. Calling itself jiva, ahankara performs all transactions of life. It is heavily influenced by the vasanas of previous births as it carries out all actions and accumulates virtues and sins and their resulting fruits or karma phalani. What is the proof that ahankara is the cause of samsara? Here we've used Vyatireka or reverse logic to prove the point. During our waking hours, ahankara is present and we experience samsara. But when we go to sleep, ahankara goes to a dormant state and we blissfully commune with Atma, free of samsara for that period. This is the pramana or proof. We should note here that ahankara is intertwined with Atma. The doership of ahankara is possible only because of the presence of the Atma. Even so, avidya caused by Maya leads to threefold karma. This karma in turn leads us to actions that are done with expectations. And it is the expectations that result in our being the bhoktas of our karma phalas in this life or a later life. We may start out with simple desires, but with time, these desires can lead to greed. And greed can lead to wrong actions that can result in papa karmas. So we get stuck in the endless avidya, kama, karma cycle, which is samsara, as you can see in the slide. Now, this cycle of samsara continues endlessly over innumerable lifetimes, with the jiva clueless about how to extricate itself from this cycle. We have come exactly halfway through our 108 slokas and hit upon the real culprit that keeps us bound to samsara. Now that we know the cause, the big question facing us is how can we save ourselves in this lifetime? We realize clearly that the Vijnanamaya Kosha has to be focused on the Atma and not on the misconceived and misguided Ahankara. But the ahankara is so strong that it doesn't perish even during pralaya. How do we handle this ahankara? Fortunately, we have one small sliver of hope. Ahankara is unbinding or lacks influence on a jivan mukta. And it perishes when videha mukti happens. That is when a jivan mukta dies. So surely jivan mukti has to be our goal. But when ahankara is stuck to the vijnanamaya kosha like crazy glue, what weapon do we have to overcome it? Swami Paramarthananda tells us that while Shravanam and Mananam give us theoretical knowledge, it is Nididhyasanam that will chip away at ahankara slowly but steadily. It is through Nididhyasanam that we can gradually turn our reactions to responses, and we can turn our mind towards Atma and away from Maya. Practicing Karma Yoga with Ishvara Prasada and Ishvara Arpana Bhava will also ease our way. It will give us the equanimity to treat events as pure events with no good or bad labels attached to them. And these practices in turn will give us the ability to change what to so what more and more easily. We will eventually get to the point where we can separate our inner happiness of the Sakshi from the prarabdha karmas that we have to handle. We will learn how to harness our ahankara and use it effectively rather than our being controlled by our ahankara. The final slide shows how easy life can be once we are on this path. Hari Om.
Thank you, Vasanta, for clarifying our idea that the cause of samsara is the wrong identification with this ahankara or the ego or the vijnanamaya kosha. And this vijnanamaya kosha is therefore not happy with its limited nature. So because of avidya, I identify. Because of ignorance, I identify with my limited self. And the limited self feels that if I achieve that, then I will be happy. Then comes karma. From karma comes to karma. Karma comes to punya and papa. That leads to the vicious cycle that we showed of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, and which is self-sustaining, and it can go on and on until one day a guru comes into our lives and breaks this cycle. The guru now in the middle of the Viveka Chudamani, we have reached the 50% point. We have finished 9 after the 18 classes. Now the diagnosis has been made. Where is the problem? The problem is my wrong identification with this ahankara, this functional I for transactional purposes. And once I know that this is not the real me, my real me is somebody else, the Atma, because of which I'm able to speak. As I said, there are so many thoughts. These are all the idam vritti. These idam vritti is supported by one thought. I am observing all these things, the aham vritti. From aham vritti, I need to jump to the aham. How do I do that? As you explained, that from now on, our job is nididhyasanam. We have got the knowledge, but this has been there for so many years. We have to erase this through so many days of continuous process of nididhyasanam to remind ourselves again and again, I am not this body-mind complex, I am somebody else. We will conclude today's class with a story to meditate upon. And all these days we've been having stories. For once today, it's not a story, it is something that really happened. This is not a story, remember. This is a real incident that happened about 40 or 50 years ago. There was a huge statue of Buddha in a certain temple near Bangkok. And there were certain monks who were regularly praying at that place. And suddenly one government official comes and informs them that because the highway has to be that a highway is going to go in that location, the temple has to be relocated, and along with the temple, the statue has to be relocated. It came as a shock for them, but then they had no choice. They had to allow the statue to be relocated. And the statue was shifted by a heavy crane, and in the process, it got damaged. And when they took the damaged statue and relocated in the new place, the monks noticed that in between there were certain cracks in the statue, and through the cracks they could see something yellow that was gleaming. And the monks began to work on it to see what is the source of that glistening that comes from within those cracks. And they discovered that this was not an ordinary clay statue of Gautama Buddha, but it was a pure golden statue of Buddha. The story goes that some centuries ago, when the place was invaded by some foreign troops, the monks had a solid gold statue and they wanted to protect it. And before the soldiers arrived, they managed to conceal it by covering it with clay. And this was such a closely guarded secret. When they died and their followers died, they had forgotten the fact that in this temple they had a golden statue of Buddha. Now, what is the significance and how do we evaluate this golden Buddha story? First is, we are not aware of our true nature. I do not know my true nature. And because I do not know my true nature, I have a wrong identification that this body is me, until teachers like Ramana and Vedantic teachers give the alpha and omega of Vedanta, Naham Beham. I am not my body. This is the first instruction. And this comes through Guru, through Shastras, as happened, as it is going on in the Viveka Chudamani. Now, through all these instructions, the teacher will tell you, it is not the sense of who I am. It is not this body-mind complex, but I am the unlimited Atma Tattva, which is functioning through this body-mind complex. And therefore, what do we need to do? As we've studied in today's class, we need to remind ourselves again and again that I am not this. And how do we do this? We recommend for all of ourselves to do this special verses, those 3 verses that I recommended, called Pratasmarami. Early in the morning, Pratasmarami Hridi Samspuradatma Tattvam. Early in the morning, I remember, I do a Nididhyasanam on that Atma Tattva, which is the golden Buddha within me. And once I discover the golden Buddha in me, the next and the most brilliant thing happens. I see the golden Buddha in everybody else. The way I relate to everyone is I relate to them as I would relate to myself, because now I'm able to see myself. I'm able to see the divinity in myself. I'm able to see divinity in all. With that, we conclude today's class. And Venkatesh, if you can conclude our class.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, friends. That marks the end of today's class. Next week, we'll continue study of Panchakosha. Let's meet on Friday, same time, for our last Upanishad class to study Mandukya Upanishad. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. local time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.